Okay, I'll be right back. I'll look at it and I'll give it back. I like your layout. I like that.
Trying to figure out how to, say you don't want people walking on the bed. Trying to figure out a size that would work.
Yep.
2 feet unless you can access it from both sides.
Yeah. Nice.
You need a piece of wiggle wire to go with your channel.
Yeah, and
You have lots.
I didn't bring any wiggle wire with me tonight. Normally I've got a little piece of it someplace. But I have, oh gosh, I have enough to put up to another high tone.
Yeah, that's how I eventually wound up securing all my plastic. It works great.
It does. It's easy to put in, easy to take out, easy to swap. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Probably found the answer if you want to. It's no more than 2 feet from each side, so you can access from both sides 4 feet width.
Right, well, that's where I kind of came up with this design. A lot of wasted space, but
Yeah. Leave aisles or choose it up. You can get by with, like, some people get by with an aisle, but really 2 foot is comfortable.
yeah, I kind of look at it and go, I don't think I'm growing a vegetable garden anyway.
And then if you have to figure out how to do it, I'll leave 3 feet.
I just wanted to see that. I didn't actually notice that. This is kind of the long-term goal out of the church. This is a dream. I have this stuff here. We never got that. But we were actually on the issue, so it's in my head. Some of these will go on every longer term.
I'll try to remember to bring what acid for the church irrigation workshop, because then it'll make so much more sense what I'm talking about.
We'll just go dumpster diving and find some of that,
I am,
2x4 wrap.
I am already really good at dumpster diving.
You need any of those little pieces, Captain? Sure, I've got 1/4 inch. Sure, I've got 1/4 inch black pipe, soaker hose, emitters, and sure, I got all of that.
I've got a lot too. I travel with this box. And so I probably left I just had a little piece of wiggle wire. And I probably left it someplace.
What do you need? I heard you say.
Wiggle wire?
Wiggle wire.
Yeah.
Well, 8 feet long. When you start snapping it into the channel, it does this. It's wicked. It's called wiggle wire for a reason.
Great, holds plastic in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need any irrigation, I'm sure I got all that. Instead of dumpster diving.
there any part of the sugar beet process as far as the waste product is concerned that would be useful in the garden? Or if they're using too many chemicals on it? Versus
The byproduct from sugar beets is actually purely alkaline.
Channel.
It's really a high pH. And they'll grind that stuff up. And it makes a great candle,
Oh, okay.
And then you just.
because it puts weight on candle.
That holds blood sugar.
Yeah.
Well,
And it filled it really snug.
yeah, but they pulled most of the sugar off. And so what's left behind is the fiber. But it still has a lot of calories to it, and so horses especially that are nervous, high energy, they'll keep. They'll use beef pulp and cattle feedlots.
I saw that. I was just over in Scottsbluff the other day and I saw all the refuse that they planted.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, geez,
Yeah, they
how
usually,
live our way.
yeah, they usually find a use for it. I
But if
think
it's alkaline, then.
it's high in calcium. Yeah, but it's fairly alkaline, so that means that the calcium's getting tied up. I know, you look at it and go, wow, organic matter.
I wonder if there's a way to introduce some sort of acid and free up the calcium before you put it down. It's not.
That starts to get complicated. And then you try to case and stuff and doing soil tests and, yeah,
It's the nerd in me.
that's okay.
There's an edge part of it, if you have an acid, you have to loosen up. That'd be good.
Just vinegar, just a little vinegar. Yeah.
So when you're making your wine or your moonshine. I think that.
Or in my case, I dug up apple cider that was given to me. Had it in the back of the refrigerator, forgot about it. I pulled it out like 2 months later, opened it up and it was like, wow. The vinegar just was like, wow.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, all right. Maybe I'll get some phosphate this summer and see what we can do.
No,
Better than last week. That was bad. On that Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, I couldn't, or Sunday, I couldn't get out of bed. Yeah, it was bad. We were sweating just a bit. To behaving to me. It's good on these screens.
so I'm just not the technology person.
My end of Zoom and all went fine.
Good, good. So blueberries, let's talk a little bit about blueberries.
Yes. You're gonna help me keep them alive, you said.
She emphasis on help.
Help, yes, I didn't say really good. I'm gonna succeed, but she's just gonna help. I do have it in a raised.
So, how do you put it on them?
Catherine's already said I shouldn't be doing it. Even though I did add some at the end of the season. Okay, I don't have it on the wheels, that's for sure.
Better
I-
climate.
Blueberry wine.
Oh,
There you go. Good, my box is filled with peat. It's not on the inside. Directly in the peat with some
And never can remember it's some or the other one for like some previous generation.
Blueberries do not like wind. I mean, they will desiccate in a heartbeat. So you're gonna plant your blueberries in the bag of peat moss. Never let the peat moss dry out, never, not in the winter, not ever. So you gotta keep it uniformly moist.
Okay.
You do need. There's some nice fertilizers out there that have weird names on them, like azaleas and.
Yes, the somas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you want something that's gonna be kind of a fertilizer that's going to, actually you want something that's gonna be neutral, because the pH of peat moss is like 5.5. Which is what blueberries want, so you really don't want to lower it anymore. So you gotta be really careful, so that's where make your own fertilizer. But in the winter, you pull this guy into your garage, or garden shed, or someplace really protected out of the wind. There's my counterpart down in Boulder County. Grew blueberries. Put them in bags of peat moss, buried the bags of peat moss in the ground, kept drip on them. And took burlap bags and tied them up and covered them in the winter. And they still dried out and died. So that's something you need to check on constantly, is to make sure they're not getting, and you can tell the little tips will start to get brittle. And it's gonna tell you to go water them. Yeah. But I like this where I could haul them in during the winter and protect and really protect them. And I don't know if there's really a truly safe place outside in the winter for them. Now, the wind's gonna change. And it surprises me sometimes. It's like, oh, it's coming out the east. Oh, now it's coming out the northeast. Now it's 50 miles an hour out of the west. You know, it's like, and then depending on where you live, you know, the trees and the buildings and everything, that changes. But and this is blueberry happy zone right here. And unless you're testing your soil with some sort of pH meter, you don't know really what your pH is. Too much sulfur and you're going to kill off. You raise the salts. And these guys also want a low salt or low BC. Yeah.
Other than the wheel part.
Yeah.
Pretty much doing, because I planted it in straight peat with some perlite for aerating.
Yeah.
Made my own mix out of that.
Yeah.
It's got decent drainage. It is outside, it is protected within my house and a gigantic pine trees, but if it comes in from the east or the southeast, look at it.
I know it's challenging. Where I live, I would love to grow Bouillon or bush, but the wind just dries it out. Apricots, I tried growing Manchurian apricots. I just suffers with it.
I mounded up a ton of straw around them before that growing machines.
Yeah, that'll help them.
I am.
So do you have the greenhouse?
I do. That last summer.
How big is it?
The 12 by 10. So I'm looking forward to the greenhouse and the greenhouse thing.
How's the drainage? Did you,
You put little holes in the bottom so that they drain out.
so you want good drainage?
You want really good drainage. A master gardener in Egbert who's doing it like this, sort of, you know, container on wheels. She gets like a quarter of blueberries per plant. Yeah.
People's onto a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big box stores. Yeah.
Home Depot sells decent size.
Yeah.
Home Depot sells, it's Canadian segment beans. Or stagnant bean, I should say.
Yeah. It's gonna get hard to find peat moss.
Why that?
The industry is realizing that they're gonna run out of peat moss. And that it takes forever for peat moss to form. So they're really concerned about the sustainability. So they're looking at other things to use like coconut coir. And other byproduct type things from the wood industry.
And get down there and be able to achieve that low pH with it? No, right? Not without additives.
And it's simple, all you gotta do is water or put like a tablespoon of vinegar. That's all you need to do. It almost sounds too simple, right? Got a gallon of water, put a tablespoon of vinegar in there, and you got the right pH. In fact, it's pretty acidic water. Yeah. Yeah.
I read that palms don't like fluoride, so do you have to let the water sit out for a little while? Or do you have to, no, that's.
Which doesn't like fluoride?
Palms, like, well, like indoor varieties,
Oh, the tropical plants.
the tropical,
Yeah, don't know.
it was in the book. It said the tips would get dry and there'd be little yellow dots on the front. That's what I got, so I think that's what I'm doing that one.
Out of my area. I don't do houseplants. That's why Kim taught them the other night. Yeah.
And I apologize for not being here. My roommate never showed up last Wednesday.
Oh, that's true.
This is all problems.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever, fine.
No house.
Oh,
I like that. Looks like fun.
Yeah, this is gonna be, I know those are valid things.
Mhm.
I've never done strawberries in them. And I won't this year because I don't have a yard, but it looks like it's.
It's like,
yeah, three, yeah, two. Not very good green thumb person. I don't swallow peanuts. That's what I said the first night here. Not a fun thing. The indoor plants. Cuttings and all that. So, I'm very, very excited.
It's not a table full of.
And is the recording for last week available? I could hear most of it,
Like all I could think was.
But-
and
there's no Wi-Fi.
the admin is working on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi was not, she doesn't have Wi-Fi, so I had to pick up my phone. And the only picture it would show me was the silhouettes of the students. And she's sitting there going, and I love plants. Going, oh, isn't that a beautiful color? I'm sure it is.
They're just.
Yeah. My secretary is admin's.
Okay.
Oh, that's important. First one I've seen is put a seating here. How to have that sitting area? You know, just need to have having a place to sit. Isn't it? Not taking a break from work. Yeah. You would know. Right. And then I just went ahead and drew in all of this stuff. I'm like, I'm not sure. I know, because I'm not square feet in that, you know. Yeah, I know. That's what happens to me. All this, it's pretty fair. Yes.
And for the program that I was using, like all this in here, like each document, it's supposed to be like a different grouping or whatever. And then it's supposed to be in the squash, but I want to make sure that you're not supposed to put down the first next to. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never put cucumbers next to squash, but I don't see why you couldn't. Yeah. Some of that stuff really isn't research based. Right. So it's great. Right. This happened.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Kind of keep it somewhere this last year. Only because I didn't have enough room.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I just. Different spot.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Master Gardener class. Enjoy your snacks and get some tea and coffee, whatever. Tonight's class is on season extension. And how many of you already have a greenhouse or high tunnel? Had. Okay, had. So we'll go into a lot of details tonight on how to be successful in these, because you can be unsuccessful pretty quickly. So, high tunnels, hoop houses. It's kind of a term that's interchangeable. They mean the same thing. It's an unheated, non-permanent greenhouse. So a high tunnel or hoop house really kind of means the same thing. Or a greenhouse that you can. And high tunnels and hoop houses, again, they're not permanent. They're usually not heated. They lack all that automation, the venting system, the heating system, which trying to heat a high tunnel or even heat a greenhouse is extremely costly. They're typically covered with plastic. Sometimes they're covered with a flexible type of a plastic, but most often it's a plastic film that covers them. And that plastic film is easy to put on. Well, I think my husband might argue that one with me, but it's fairly easy to put on. And they do have a lifespan, about 6 years. I have had my plastic on a smaller high tunnel last me 15 years. It did turn milky white, and so that reduced light transmission through it. But depending upon how you take care of it, they can last a long time, or how they were manufactured. Typically, it's a single layer of plastic. The one that lasted me for 15 years was a double layer of plastic. So each one helped the other one survive a lot longer. So high tunnel can be kind of a magical place to grow. And we refer to them as season extension, but they can also compress the season. So that means that things grow a lot faster in there and things can happen a lot faster. So this is my high tunnel. This is one of them. I planted it. So it came in a box. And I opened it up and there was a little thing on there that said instructions. which I promptly handed to my husband, who's the engineer, right? So we finally got it up, finally got the soil amended, got everything set to go. I planted it the second week of June. Now, how many of you on the second week of June would think about planting a garden? Yeah, I planted on the 4th of July and had success. So, I mean, there's a few of us who are geeky, but this got planted late. This is what it looked like the first week of July. So it's kind of looking a little behind, right? Well, look at the next picture. That was the last week of August. Don't know what I was thinking. These are rows of basil. I have 40 feet of basil. Made a lot of pesto, okay? A lot of pesto. I was giving basil away. This is a row of carrots. And remember in the vegetable section, I talked about taking that flexible cattle panel and bending it and making it into hoops. And I got a lot of people looking at me going. So this is that flexible cattle panel back there. And I've gotten so I can just tie some twine on one end and I walk it over. And then I bend it down and I tie it to the other end about 40 inches apart. And then I set it upright like that. And now this becomes my trellis. So I grow things up my trellis. And so all of that over there are tomatoes. And you see those little black dots right there? Those are watermelons. Okay. This is what it looked like the third week of September. And I am just harvesting like you would believe. But again, those are my watermelons, the tomatoes, peppers, carrots, basil. Artichokes. Let's go on artichokes back in there. I put them back in that corner because they like a little cooler. They like a little more humidity, like a lot more water. So they did pretty good. But I always keep track of what comes out of my high tunnel, or even my vegetable garden for that matter. I want to know what's being successful and what's not being successful. When I look at these numbers, I actually think that there was underproducing. And I really should have, for tomatoes was 194.8 pounds, so almost 200 pounds. I really should have gotten close to 300 to 350 pounds of tomatoes. 259 pounds of cucumbers. I was giving those things away.
How many pounds of basil?
Yeah. It's 67 pounds of watermelon, 70 ancho peppers, 100 Jimmy Nardellos. Anyone know what Jimmy Nardello peppers are? Oh, you must grow Jimmy Nardellos. They look wicked, like a cayenne pepper, and they're twisty and kind of puckered in, and they're long, curly like this, and they look like they're going to rip your lips off. And they're the color of Christopher's shirt. So they're fire engine red. And then they get a little deeper red, more like James' shirt. So they're a beautiful pepper plant, and you eat them, and it's like eating a candy cane. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah, they're amazing. They're an old heirloom. They are wonderful, worth growing. Start them from seed. You're not going to find them already started big box stores or anything. You got to start them from seed. Pimentos, 30 pimentos, 39 green bell peppers. So a lot came out. I've since grown peanuts in it, high tunnel. I've grown sweet potatoes. I've grown corn. Best corn crop I've ever grown came out of that high tunnel.
How much does something like that cost? You bought it as a kid?
I bought it as a kit. So there was some assembly required. And
No doubt.
yeah. And I would have to get with, I got it from Farm Tech. So you would have to get on the Farm Tech website and see what they're currently going for. but definitely very, very magical. If you're looking to grow your own food, really ramp up your production, high tunnel can certainly achieve that for you. But we're also going to talk about some of the ways that it can cause problems. Because yeah, it seems easy, right? Seems easy.
What about the wind?
Well, that thing went through 100-mile-an-hour winds. There's a trick to it. There's a trick to getting it through that. Yeah, that was a wind event I'll never forget, 100-mile-an-hour winds. So planning your greenhouse. I measured the site and measured the site. I put stakes out. I roped it off. I stood in the middle of it. I walked around it. My first thought was, oh my gosh, this is huge. But there's a reason why I had to build one that size. So measure first, then build second, right? Location, do your site analysis. You actually want your high tunnel. You want it on north-south access. You want it like this. So that the winds come in and hit it broadside. It withstands the winds a whole lot better. And then remember how the sun moves around? Your summer sun's going to come up here. It's higher. It also works better for the winter when the winter sun's down here. So you can grow year round in these. There's a trick to growing year round in them, but you can do it. So you really want it on this north-south axis, if at all possible. It works better for the sun, works better for the wind. The wind hits it from this end out down here, which is, you know, a lot of people think, oh, it should hit it from there and it'll be better protected, but it pushes the whole high tunnel forward. So if it's like that, then it's like this. That's hard to fix. Water quality. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Know what that water pH and salt is. You can fix the water. You can put it on a filtration system. You can introduce vinegar to it to drop the pH. City of Cheyenne water is 8.5. You can put a little vinegar in there, drop it down to what you want. More acidic water is going to keep that particulates out, the calcium, keep everything in suspension. So have it tested. I mean, just a simple test or call the city, test it yourself. Construction methods. Are you going to build it yourself? And I've seen some really awesome high tunnels that have been built with PVC pipe. What style of greenhouse are you going to have? And then what type of covering do you want? Inevitably, I have someone come up to me and go, oh, I've got all this glass, storm window glass. Or, you know, the store just got ripped down and we took all the glass out. And I'm like, do you not know where we live? It's like, what is Cheyenne famous for in the summer? Hailstones about this big. I would rather pick up shredded plastic than shredded glass. So, you know, avoid the glass if you can. Greenhouse insurance. Here's the conundrum. Because these are considered non-permanent structures, you're not going to get insurance on them. But the tax assessor looks at them and goes, oh, look, there's a structure. Let's tax it. So, yeah, no, it's, my husband fought the tax assessor on that one and lost. Okay. So inside the greenhouse, so almost all of you have done the vegetable garden plan and figured out a layout for your vegetable garden. You kind of had a feel for how much space you need. So outside, tomato plants need anywhere from 4 to 5 square feet. Inside, it changes. Same thing with cucumbers, 8 to 10 square feet. They're outside, you know, go vertical. That's why those hoops are in there, those cattle panel trellises. Everything gets grown up. Tomatoes grow up a trellis, even if they're outside. I grow my tomatoes up a trellis. My cucumbers go up a trellis. I grow pole beans because they can go up a trellis. Saves me a lot of space. I can plant stuff underneath that trellis. In a tunnel, I will plant my tomatoes 18 inches on center. And then I prune the heck out of them. So they're close. They're close. And if you don't prune them, it gets really hard to walk through that tomato tunnel. I just telling you. Been there. So if you can, grow everything vertically, put it up on a trellis. In a high tunnel, you can plant everything closer together because you're also using drip irrigation. And of course, my last parting shot is get the biggest structure you can afford and will fit the site. Because Murphy's Law lives. Frame types, you can build it out of wood, aluminum, galvanized steel. I have seen a couple greenhouses made out of galvanized steel. I've got some pictures of one that was an old chicken coop that pulled the panel sides off of it and covered it with plastic, PVC. So there's a lot of materials that are totally appropriate. Do you want a peaked roof? Do you want Quonset style? Lean-to there, so there's no rules on that. It's just how you manage it becomes really important. Okay. Oh, don't forget, it's got to withstand snow, wind, and live loads. So that wind is huge. We talked about the location. You want that north-south access. Zoning, make sure that you can put one up in your neighborhood. If you're out in a new subdivision or homeowners association, make sure that there's not something in there that says you can't do that, because if you build it and you can't have it there, someone will be on your doorstep knocking on the door. And then costs. I've tried to chase the costs and check on this. It changes, as you would guess. Very simple hoop house, about $1 a square foot. Tunnel overwintering structure without heat, about $2 a square foot. I think that price is probably more like $3 this year. Basic greenhouse, $6 a square foot. There are some state-of-the-art greenhouses here in Cheyenne that I would say double that number, $10 to $15 a square foot. And PVC, about $3.50 a square foot. Coverings, glass. There's quite a few glass greenhouses out here. It's the old traditional. Down in Arvada, Colorado, there was probably a dozen glass greenhouses, big commercial carnation production down in Arvada, Colorado. Hailstorm came through and wiped them all out because it was all glass, just destroyed everything. Fiberglass, it will yellow over time. It's also flammable, not that. I don't know how you would get fire inside your greenhouse unless you have a little wood stove in it or something. Acrylic, again, flammable, resistant to breakage. Polycarbonate or Lexan can have a 10-year lifespan. And polyethylene film. So there's a lot of choices out there. A lot. Some polycarbonate. Comes in different sizes. I don't pass all this around. Look at this. Polycarbonate. So different sizes of polycarbonate. Look at all the thickness. So different sizes of polycarbonate. You can see that, they're small, close together. Really big, stout. This is what's covering the ends of one of my high tunnels. This. My biggest complaint about it is that the water leaked in at the top and ran down the sides, and now I'm growing algae. So that's the downside. Then there's the films. The film has absolutely got to be UV protected. If it's not UV protected, it will last you about 3 months. And then it gets brittle and it just falls apart. So it's gotta be, so don't go to the big box store and go, oh, this is really cheap. Yeah.
No painter's plastic.
Yeah, no painter's plastic, none of that. Okay, here's a line of plastic called Soul Rig. And it's a woven plastic and it's 12 mil. It comes in different weights. It's all 6-year warranty. This is, you either love this stuff or hate it. The person who taught me a lot about greenhouses, Karen Cantor at UW, hates this stuff because it would come apart and would unweave itself. And so it would get kind of tatty and messy and then it would fall apart. She doesn't like it. I've had it on my high tunnels for 15 years. And I replaced it twice in that time. So I'm on a new plastic right now.
You run that only on the sides or the whole way?
You'll see pictures, but I'll get to that, I promise. So here's a bunch of samples for you guys. But what you cover the high tunnel with is really, really important. So Soul Rig makes some stuff that's pretty light. And in this environment here, I would not go with lightweight. I would want a minimum of 6 mil, 11 or 12 mil is preferable. This is Sunmaster. This is 6 mil. 2 layers of this is what lasted me 15 years. It turned milky white, which is a problem with light transmission. This is the Soul Rig 172 woven 12 mil. So very important with what you cover that with and what you decide on. And keep in mind, I've seen people, there's stuff that you can get that's a flexible kind of polycarbonate and it fits in channels and you can run it through the channels. I've never gotten any feedback on the longevity of it. And all I can visualize is the wind's going to get that high tunnel and it's going to twist it. And so there's that risk of it popping out. I don't know. Got to try it. So different covers, different manufacturers of covers have allowed different types of light in, and it changes that wavelength depending upon the manufacturer. So you've got to be really mindful of that change. So some of the plastic that's out there is Tough Light, DuPont, Soul Rig, Luminences, and then Sunmaster. But it changes that plant's need for NPK. And you'll see your plants start to stretch to the light. I had corn in my high tunnel that was 12 feet tall. That was stretching. That was really stretching. It was the best corn I've ever had. So you could stretch all at once. So it does change that through photomorphogenesis. And Cornell has done a lot of research on that. They used peppers, and each one was under different type of plastic, and it shows the different needs for NPK and the yields that they came up with. So it's good to know this kind of information so that you can plan accordingly when you're growing your vegetables in that high tunnel. That the plastic covering is going to affect the light, and it's going to affect the needs of that plant's NPK needs. So I'm not going to make you crazy with graphs. Different ways to grow in a high tunnel. If you decide to grow in containers or raised beds, your soil pH, you need to test it. It should be around 5.5 to 7. And then any potting soil and any containers must be clean. And you've got to know the source of that potting soil. If you're using containers, they need to be cleaned. And I mean, you need to dump them out every other year at least and clean them. Because that's a good place for pathogens and insects to find a new home. When you grow in containers or high, in raised beds, the soil doesn't have that same buffering capacity as it would normally have outside. So things really change rapidly in a high tunnel hoop house greenhouse. So you've got to be very mindful of that soil because the soil now is a lot more dynamic.
Peter, how would you clean wood cedar raised beds?
So how would you clean a wood cedar raised bed?
Right.
That's challenging. And so you have to be really super careful with what you amend your soil with. There may be some point where you've got to pull a lot of that soil out and expose the wood. And then like a 10% bleach solution, just rub it on there, wipe it off. Yeah. So you have to be kind of careful with that. Water quality. We've talked about this. So you want to avoid soft water. I have run into people who have got their sprinkler system and their outside hose bib is attached to their soft water conditioning system in the house. Yeah. Yes. Had a guy call me and goes, well, I'm now in my 3rd year living here. I've now gone through my 4th lawn. What's happening? So we talked about it. Well, looked, yep, sure enough, the soft water system was hooked up and went right out to the hose bib. That's a lot of salt. Soft water is just salty, salty, salty.
And if you don't have a system, you don't have a soft water system. So.
Then you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I throw that in there because 21 years of doing yard calls and getting all sorts of questions and problems. I bring some of that stuff to class so that you guys can go, maybe I should check. Yeah. So some water test numbers that you want to look for. On that salt, 0.5 or less, soil pH 5 to 7, alkalinity. That's actually important. There's a few other things that's really important with the water, but the alkalinity should be between 400 and 100 parts per million. So a water test actually will tell you a lot. It will tell me a lot about what's going on and why your plants are doing what they're doing. Okay, so my coworker just sent me a message. The elevator is acting up. It seems stuck on the 4th floor and the door just keeps opening. Y'all are taking the stairs down, okay? Sorry. For everyone with bad knees, I'm sorry. I don't think anyone is stuck on the elevator. The door is popping open. I would be leaving. Watering in a high tunnel. It's better to keep the plants on the dry side. A lot of myth, a lot of misconception about greenhouses, hoop houses, that they've got to be humid. And that's about as far from the truth as you can get. When you go into a botanical garden conservatory and they're trying to grow banana plants, the humidity is going to be high. You are not trying to grow banana plants, it's mild. So you really want to keep that humidity as low as possible. In your high tunnel, it is not your friend. In the greenhouse, it is not your friend. You want to keep that greenhouse dry to keep the pathogens down, especially the fungus. There's a whole bunch of insects that just absolutely love humidity. Whiteflies, aphids, thrips. Yeah, Julie says no one is stuck, but I'll inform maintenance. Okay. Watering. Microtubes, so if you're doing containers, you want microtubes going to it. You want to know exactly how much water is going through those microtubes to each container. In my high tunnel, I'm on the ground. I treat it like a big vegetable garden that's outside, only it's inside. Everything is planted directly into the soil. So I'm on drip tape. And overhead sprinklers, you do not want to be doing this in your high tunnel. You don't want to be throwing the water around. So, yeah. So this is your first kind of little introduction to drip tape. So it's got the clear one on the bottom, so it shows you what that emitter looks like. And then in the drip class, I have dissected a couple of emitters, so you'll actually be able to see how that water channel soon pops out. So there's a little hole there that the water gets metered out. There are some high tunnels. For a while, we were working with a gentleman from the extension office down in New Mexico, all the way down in Hatch, New Mexico. And so it's hot down there, right? And so he was building hoop houses, but he was putting misters in the top of them. Well, that makes sense if you're in New Mexico trying to cool things. CSU's done a lot of research on hoop houses, and they have a better method of cooling that tunnel. So we'll get to that. Drip system. I keep it really simple. It's on the ground. There's my filter. I have a pressure reducer on there because these guys can only handle 12 PSI. So I've got my pressure reducer, my water filter. I must have like 3 or 4 water filters all over the place. You know, at the house, where it comes into my stations and gets sent out. Then on each leg, each zone has got a filter. I can't afford, you see the little emitters on those things. I can't afford to have a little piece of sand get in there. Because if that emitter gets clogged, you're not unclogging that. That's a done emitter. These should be 1 foot on center. They all have a little valve on them, a little manifold, so I can turn them on and off. Gives me a lot of flexibility, so I don't have to plant every foot, right? I can plant 3 feet apart, put a hoop over it, run something down the middle, turn it off when I'm done. Someone's getting too much water, I can turn one off, I can turn one on full strength. So I can really manipulate this. This is where you get to let your inner micromanager loose and play. We all have an inner micromanager. This is where it belongs. It's in here.
Do you put the drip tape on top of the soil, or do you build like a little funnel?
I put it on top of the soil.
Okay.
So not to confuse you, I put it on top of the soil, except for potatoes.
Okay. That makes sense. That's a real problem.
But this is the same stuff in theory with potatoes.
So with potatoes, I take the drip tape normally on the surface, right? When you put it on the surface, you want the emitters pointing up so that when you turn it off, they just drain and it doesn't suck anything in. But when you do potatoes, you bury that drip tape, but you put it in upside down so that when it turns off, it drains outward and it doesn't suck fines in. It's the only time you bury it, really. Unless you're a commercial grower, that's the exception. Okay, containers with micro drip tubes. This is even more micromanagement. To me, this is crazy. This guy took 55-gallon drums, cut them in half, filled them with soil, and then each individual container's got its own plant and its own microtube. It works well for him. But at some point, all that soil needs to come out, get refreshed, new soil. Because it's gonna be exhausted nutriently. And microbially, it's going to be exhausted. So you've got to pull it out, refresh it, redo it. And in which, I don't know if you can see this or not. But this one down here, the micro tube is just going crazy. And so all those little plants in there are kind of doing the backstroke. They're swimming, they're swimming. So fertilizers. You can all fill in the blanks on this one. You do not want to use Miracle Grow in your high tunnel ever. It is the wrong nitrogen. It is the wrong everything. Too much nitrogen, too much, it's off the charts. So nitrogen levels, they're going to create soft fruit, more foliage, fewer fruit, potassium levels too low. That creates more problems. You can do leaf tissue tests in the garden, whether it's outside or inside. That's going to tell you immediately what you need. But you've got to be very, very careful with your fertilizers in that high tunnel. Fertigation. This is how you're going to, this is one way of getting fertilizer out there if you're making your own, which again, I would encourage. You can just suck it up. This just pulls the fertilizer up and runs it through. You can also do this with, you can put vinegar in there to acidify the water, clean out those emitters, and turn it off, turn off. I mean, I like that sort of stuff anyway. Knobs to turn, it's kind of fun. But the fertilizer's got to be really, you got to be really, really careful with that. And that's again goes back to make your own. That way you know exactly what you're putting in there. And you're not over fertilizing. And you're adding more organic material back. Okay, cooling. So this is my high tunnel. It's minus 10 degrees outside. There is a foot of snow sitting on top of that thing. Any idea what the temperature is inside? 60 degrees. It's 60 degrees inside. So, yep. The only downside is that at night, the high tunnel drops the same ambient air temperature. So December and January would have just put the kibosh on trying to do anything year round in there. Yep. So cooling a high tunnel, hoop house, greenhouse, that is your biggest challenge. And that's the hard thing to do. I have those remote sensors in there, a remote thermometer. And so it picks up the temperature continuously. And then I've got a receiver inside the house. So I just glance at that receiver and I know what that temperature is. By the time the sun comes up in the summer, about 8 o'clock in the morning, my high tunnel is already 85 to 90 degrees. So cooling that is really, really challenging. My philosophy and my attitude is that the garden and that high tunnel have got to produce for me, but they've got to beat the grocery store price. That's imperative. So as soon as you start adding electricity, then your costs go up. So I'm a big believer in the roll-up sides, lots of ventilation. But again, as soon as you start putting in fan jets, pad fans, swamp coolers, box fans, now you're pulling electricity, and the electrical companies are now charging for on-demand time for the high demand area time. And so your electrical rates can double during those demand times. So I like the roll-up sides. You can't ever have enough top vents, but you've got to have that air circulation is critical. You have to move a lot of air through your greenhouse or your high tunnel. Lots and lots of air. You can't let it just sit there and be stagnant. That's why when you walk into a commercial greenhouse and it's noisy and the wind is just going like crazy, or they've got fans at the top, or they've got the racetrack fans, they're really trying to keep that air circulation going.
Use automatic vents.
Those wax pistons.
Yeah, yeah, and I've certainly seen those. They do work. They're fun to watch.
What do you use?
So there's other things that you can put on your high tunnel or your greenhouse to help cool it. And so shade cloth is one of them. This is white. We make silver ones. Backside of it's black. I would encourage you to put the white side up. Comes in different patterns, different thicknesses, different amounts of white. There's some that's silver. You know, they've gotten colorful. And then heating a greenhouse. This is definitely a science, trying to heat a greenhouse. And so what's your source of the heat? If it's propane, you've got to be really careful about incomplete combustion on that propane, because that ethylene gas will wipe out your vegetable crop. So be real careful with what you use to heat a greenhouse with. There's some, and I've got some great pictures in here too, so that, you know, what I'm talking about, you'll be able to see some pictures of it. There's some where the north wall has been insulated. There's the 55-gallon barrels that are painted black full of water, so they gather some heat during the day, they release it at night. Thermal screens, there's a lady over in Laramie who uses bubble wrap. So the sides are all bubble wrapped. She bubble wraps her plants and she's pretty good at going year round. Sealing out all those air leaks, windbreaks. There's a bunch of ways that you can go year round and kind of fight that. So what's needed in your greenhouse? I have an area where I can walk on that's not soil. So I just have cardboard put down. When I walk in, I can set stuff down, and that's my first line of defense too. That way, if I've stepped in anything outside and I come in, I can get rid of it on that cardboard, or for a while I had indoor outdoor carpeting in there, and so that worked for a while. I have a workspace, a staging area, and a place to sit. I have a place to sit. Should have a place to sit in your garden. Walked into high tunnels where there was some pretty extensive lighting, and of course the coffee maker. So, yeah. Hey, diseases and pests. So this is tricky. Greenhouse disorders can be brought on by too cold, too hot, too humid, soil issues, the pH, salt, water quality, fertilizer, pesticide misuse in any combination. And so trying to bring all that back into balance, really. So this is why, you know, what you amend your soil with is important. What you fertilize with is important. Your water is important. You don't want to introduce salty water or salts into your high tunnel. So you've got to be very careful with what you bring in. Because trying to bring it all back into balance is difficult. And I've known people who have just given up, picked up the high tunnel and moved it to another location. You have to have a really, really loving spouse and some really loyal friends to do that. So our main disease problems, fungus, bacteria, and viral. Typically what I see in a high tunnel is going to be bacterial. Botrytis is the big one. That's that fuzzy, fungus is the one I see the most often. And that's botrytis, and that's that fuzzy gray mold. You guys are going, I don't even know what that looks like. When you drop a tomato and you lose that tomato and it's underneath all that foliage and you find it like 2 weeks later, and it's fuzzy gray, you'll look at it and go, oh, botrytis. Botrytis. Now I know what botrytis looks like. So fungi uses their enzymes to break down plant cells and absorb the nutrients out of that plant. Again, botrytis. Likes high humidity, low temperatures. So this is going to be a common thread here. The high humidity is going to bring on a lot of these plant diseases. Powdery mildew. You get powdery mildew in your high tunnel. The only thing you can do is rip those plants out and get rid of them. There is nothing you're going to spray on them that's going to bring them back. I have tried growing sugar snap peas and snow peas in my high tunnel, and the window for them is really tiny. So I'll plant them in April, and then by the 1st of June, I'm pulling them out because they're already starting to get powdery mildew. And no matter what you put on them, you can make a baking soda solution and put it on there. You get safer soap, use it off label, put it on there. But it has already impacted the flavor of those snow peas. It just doesn't taste good. So again, integrated pest management, this is going to be a common theme that you're going to use too. Less is more in a high tunnel. So less fertilizer. Keep it on the dry side. Keep the humidity down. Less humidity, less water, less fertilizer, which really seems counterintuitive to what you've been doing outside. So it's a whole new creature when you garden inside a high tunnel. Increase your air circulation. You start getting insect problems. The first thing I'm going to tell you is to increase the air circulation. Bacteria. This is usually introduced because plant's been injured or wounded. You know, you brushed by it and it broke a leaf and you didn't know it, or maybe there was something on the tools and you brought that in, or you bought a plant and you brought that in and it had problems with it. So trying to deal with bacteria can be very difficult. Again, a lot of times you just end up getting rid of that plant. Good sanitation. Watering, very critical. Reduce plant stress. So plant stress in a high tunnel. Too high humidity, the watering's off, fertilizer's off. That's all going to contribute to stress inside a high tunnel. Viruses. So viruses, once you get a plant with a virus, there's no cure for a virus, right? We've learned that since 2020. There's no cure for virus. Same thing with plants. I bought some tomatoes that were grafted. So for a while, grafted tomatoes were all the thing, because you could put a tomato that wasn't as vigorous on a really vigorous rootstock, and now you had a very vigorous plant overall. Well, that's fine. Grafting is tricky, doable, but tricky. Whoever was doing the grafting was a smoker or chewed tobacco. And that's all it takes is for someone to smoke and have tobacco on their hands, and that tobacco mosaic virus will transfer from that cigarette to your hand to the plant. I know that sounds like a really weird chain, but that's how that one works. And that's all it took to take out these grafted tomatoes I bought. So on the tomato itself, you will see it kind of looks like a bullseye. These concentric rings like this. And it could be just kind of a red on red, or this could be a little bit more orangey on red, but you'll see those concentric rings. Rip the plant out and throw the plant away. Put it in a garbage bag and put it in the trash. That is all you can do with it. That changes the flavor of the tomato. Changes the flavor. It's like, I've never eaten a styrofoam ball, but that's what I imagine a styrofoam ball would taste like. Yeah. So viruses, plant must be destroyed. That is not what anyone wants to hear me say. If I see a plant with a virus, it's that, I'm gonna tell you that. There's a lot of insects that can bring that in. Leaf hoppers are notorious for that. Aphids will bring viruses in. There's a psyllid that gets blown up from Texas up here. They can bring in diseases. So there's a whole bunch of bugs, bad bugs that can bring in these plant diseases. But a virus, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. So this picture, I took this picture out of a greenhouse here in Cheyenne, where the owner had overloved the soil. Over amended the soil. Never had her soil test, was all raised beds. So there was azomite in there, there was leonardite in there, there was just, you name it, she was throwing it in there. So if she found it at the store, she wasn't familiar with it, she just tossed it in there. Kelp, I mean, you name it, this was crazy soil. So can you see all the little spots on here? Those are aphids in every life stage. Every life stage in there. And one little ladybug, working her heart out, trying to take care of that plant. That's a pepper plant. Pepper plant was still growing and do well. There's a pepper down there. The leaves are great color, but they're just loaded with aphids. Aphids. 4,000 aphid species throughout the world. Use a yellow sticky card to monitor. So this is where you get to let your inner entomologist play. So you get a yellow sticky card, put it up in your high tunnel, and then monitor it, check it, scout it. So when you start seeing stuff on there, usually it gets fungus gnats on there, sometimes trichogamma wasp. But it's fun to identify what gets stuck on there. But this is how you're going to monitor. I'm not big on insecticides because there's so many other methods of controlling insects than reaching for 7 or orthene or whatever the big box stores are trying to sell you. And if you're using an insecticide, you're only killing the secondary or tertiary problem. You're not addressing the primary plant problem. If I find aphids, the primary plant problem is most likely in the soil, how it's been fertilized. In the case of that other slide, how it's been amended, crazy amendment, and then how is it being watered? So all of those factors are what contributed to those aphids. I'm going to try to teach you how to bring everything back into balance. And so this is what I want you also to embrace, so that when you run into someone that's having a problem, you can tell them, you got to bring things back into balance. Don't use an insecticide, right? Okay. There's a lot of other good bugs that will go after the bad bugs. So there's green lacewings, aphid midges, parasitic wasps. Parasitic wasps are little tiny things. I mean, like fit on the top of your finger, little non-stinging. When I say parasitic wasp, don't think of something that's going to get you. This is something that lays an egg. So how many of you seen or know of the movie called Alien? Do you have any idea where they got the idea for Alien? Was within the insect world. 100% in the insect world. So these little parasitic wasps lay their eggs on top of the bad bug, like a caterpillar or an aphid. The egg hatches into a larva, but it burrows into the insect, like the larva. And then it slowly starts to eat the innards without killing its host. And at some point that insect is going to say, oh, it's time for me to metamorphize and I need to get out of my host. And they burst out, just like in Aliens. Okay. Yeah.
So it's not like you have the space balls where it comes out dancing.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. Oh, there's a fungus too that you can use, Bavaria bassiana, insecticidal soaps, horticulture oil, neem oil. Talk a lot about more neem oil, azadactrin. Neem oil is non-selective, so be careful with neem oil. Neem oil will take out your bees, bumblebees, they'll take out the good guys, so neem oil is not selective. Insecticidal soap, there's a one called Safers. That is a pretty cool insecticidal soap, because it also works on fungus. Off-label, but works on fungus. Mealybugs. Yeah, another one that's hard to control. Feed on leaves. These are ones that also can get on your house plants. Again, horticulture oil, neem oil, soaps. Lower temperature, reduce the humidity. Reduce the humidity. There's the mealybug destroyer, green lacewings. I think lady beetles will take them out. So there's some good bite, and you can buy all these insects. Should get them at the nursery. Or you can mail order them. Okay. It's you can find them at nurseries, but you can also mail order them. This is a company that sells. It talks a little bit about the different insects, but this is a company that sells wasps, pretty damn wasps.
You got the entomologist on, you see that website, you've got everything that we want.
Yeah,
Arbico.
Arbico. Yeah, Arbico is another good one. Goodbug.com. There, which is an insectary in Durango, I believe, and then there's another insectary up in Billings. So you can mail order bugs.
Territorial Seed Company has.
Yeah, yeah. So you can mail order insects. Thrips. And Scott talked a little bit about these guys. They are tiny, 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 tiny. They cause a lot of damage. They also bring in some viruses. So they're a tough one to control, and nurseries go crazy. Greenhouses go crazy trying to keep them out. And so here's an exclusion screen for thrips. So I'll pass this around. But this is a screen that keeps thrips out. You can see how finely woven that is, how tight it is.
So how would you wrap that around?
You would use it, you still want airflow.
Okay,
So you use it on the sides or the ends, or, you know, if you've got big fans coming in, you use them on the fans to try to exclude those thrips, because thrips don't fly, but they're just
blown
there, and they can get blown around fairly easily. Sticky cards to monitor. Predatory insects, minute pirate bugs, green lacewings. Reduce your nitrogen fertilizer and increase your ventilation. Whiteflies, one of the greenhouses up at the VA was infested with whiteflies, and they ended up abandoning it. It was just so bad. But they were also using Miracle Grow. And they didn't understand ventilation, and they ramped up the humidity. So, you know, they kind of set themselves up for failure on that. They go after the phloem in the plants, so they tap into that plant's vascular system. Large populations, leaves turn yellow, fall off the plant, they excrete honeydew. Yellow sticky cards. Again, that yellow sticky card is just be really invaluable in your greenhouse or high tunnel. Parasitic wasp and Carcia formosa is what you can use against them. Aluminum foil, and you wrap that aluminum foil around the base of the plant, on the soil and a little bit on the stem. And it supposedly helps repel them. Insecticidal soaps, insecticidal oils. So both of those have got to contact the insect in order to work. So it has to be direct contact. I would rather just get the parasitic wasp and let them hunt down those flies and do my work for me. They would be my new employees.
and you don't have to pay them.
Yeah, I don't have to pay them. Fungus gnats. These are also the ones that plague houseplants. Like wet soil with lots of organic material. So that wet soil conundrum there. For house plants, you just gotta let your house plant dry out a little bit because fungus gnat larvae feed on the algae that's in the soil in that house plant or in your soil outside. It can spread some pathogens. Way to control them, Brucellus thuringiensis, israeliensis, BTI. You could buy BTI pretty darn easy and go to the hardware store, feed store, Murdoch's. And those are those mosquito dunks. So those little beige colored donuts. So if you've got fungus gnats in your house plants, take a mosquito dunk and put it in your watering can and just let that mosquito dunk just soak in there. So every time you water, you're putting Bacillus thuringiensis israeliensis into the water, into the soil. Yellow sticky traps, fungus gnats love yellow. And the adults will just go whoosh like that. One female fungus gnat can lay 200 eggs. She only lives about 4 or 5 days, but she's busy in those 4 or 5 days. So trying to get a hold of them and get her stuck to a sticky trap is great. And then again, Karen Pancher over at UW likes to put potato pieces on top of the soil. So this is for those who are not squeamish. Okay. Because the larva of the fungus gnat is going to find that potato and attach itself to the potato and want to eat the potato. So when you pick the potato up the next morning, it's going to have larvae stuck to it. Yeah, okay, yeah. Spider mites. So this is the contradiction. They like dry conditions. They like it dry. And what am I telling you to do? Keep that high tunnel greenhouse on the dry side, keep the humidity down. So I had spider mites go after my eggplant one year, and I literally had a sprinkler system. I took my oscillating sprinkler in there, and I just had it just for my eggplants. And I was kept that really humid, and it didn't do anything. They were like happy. I made them even happier. So I tried a whole bunch of things, and I just pulled the eggplant and said, you win, others. And I just pulled it and got rid of it. But once they get in there, they're hard. Now my high tunnels, all the sides roll up. And so I can control the wind as it comes through. I can control the temperature in that high tunnel very, very closely. And I want my target temperature is 85 degrees in that high tunnel. And so I can raise this side, I can lower this side, whatever. And I can control that temperature in there very closely, even on really hot days, just by doing that. When I had the spider mites in there, both sides rolled up as much as they could. And I still lost the battle. Predatory mites, there's actually a spider mite predator that preys on the 2-spotted spider mites. And I lost. So pesticides is a last resort. It's got to be labeled for your greenhouse or your high tunnel. And at that point, it's going to be pretty toxic and you're probably not going to be able to buy it. So neem oil is the best choice for insect control in a high tunnel. Keep in mind, it is non-selective and it will take out the good guys. So you got to be very, very careful. You've got to spot the insects, spray them. I've used Sabadil in the past, which is a derivative of a lily. And that's also one that you've got to use very carefully. So pesticides, make sure that what you're using is going to not harm everybody in that high tunnel. Okay. So again, integrated pest management. This is where we start with the least toxic and we move up the ladder. So again, we don't want to have to reach for insecticides if we don't have to, because I'm also telling you, you should be planting flowers out there for the pollinators and you want to have pollinators coming in. So if you're using insecticides, just the smell of some of those will take your pollinators out. So rule number 1, you want to increase your air circulation and decrease your humidity. So where you've got a small height, a little small greenhouse like 12 by 12.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably gonna have to have a fan in there. Should have a fan up at the top. Maybe 2 at the top so you can do the racetrack and make that air circulation go around like this. Decrease the humidity, keep that humidity as low as possible. It's Wyoming, so it's not a hard thing to do. And then sanitation. Very, very important. I have walked into some greenhouses and high tunnels where I just looked at the owner and went, do you want me to take my shoes off? Because I swear he had been in there vacuuming. It was perfectly clean. It was very sanitary. So don't leave dead plants, don't let weeds grow. That's a really hard one. Don't let weeds grow. I do clean my tools. 10% bleach solution. I just toss them in there, soak them, hose them off. You don't want to leave the bleach in or on them, and you don't want to leave them in bleach a lot of times. The bleach is very corrosive. You just want to sanitize. And then check everything that you bring in. Check that plant. So if you're buying plants, you should be all growing your own plants. But if you buy a plant, turn it upside down, because the bad bugs are going to live on the bottom side of those leaves. They're not going to be in a place you can see them. They're going to be hidden. And it's like that pepper plant I showed you with all the aphids. That was the underside of the leaf. Yeah. So the little sign says, anybody entering this greenhouse must use hand sanitizer and step through disinfectant mats, no exceptions. So that's, some greenhouses have got some pretty hard and fast rules. And the hand, keep in mind, if someone is smoking or chewing tobacco and they're picking up the tobacco, they're risking getting tobacco mosaic virus on their hands. And whatever they've walked through on the outside might be on their shoes. You can bring viruses into your house just by what you've walked through. So you've got to be very careful. I'm not quite that bad. Again, inspect any plants before they go in. Not all fertilizers work. At this point, you guys are working on becoming master gardeners. Make your own fertilizer. It is not that hard. It's a lot of fun. It's something you can boast about to your neighbors. I make my own fertilizer. I don't use that Miracle Grow garbage.
Is that the one that you gave us the first night?
Mhm. Yep. And do not bring Miracle Grow into your high tunnel. Yeah. So I grow directly into the soil in my high tunnel. I do not ever put manures in there or anything salty. If you introduce manures into your high tunnel, if you go, oh, Catherine, you're wrong. I'm going to put manures in there because I know I can. And I had a good friend do that. He was raising goats. By golly, he was going to put little goat pellets in there, and that was going to be the perfect fertilizer. So he did, and he ended up with a salt problem that he couldn't get rid of in that high tunnel. It's called water, lots and lots of water. Well, he couldn't get enough water in there to push it deep enough, and he's also on an alkaline soil. So now you've got a high pH soil, and now you've introduced salt. And so that's the worst of both worlds, because now you have a sodium absorption ratio that's too high for the plants to survive in. So his plants were dying. So lots and lots of water. And he thought, okay, I've soaked it down deep enough. He went back in, watered his plants, the salt all came back up to the surface. And not only did it come up to the surface, but it crystallized on the surface and it was sparkling. So it just sparkled. Yep. So at that point, he's not the first person that's done that, I guarantee you. But your choices are you remove the soil or you move the high tunnel. In this case, he decided this is where I'm going to raise my goats. And so he turned it into a goat house. So, yeah, whatever works for you, right? Whatever works. Okay. All right, we know that one already. So the other thing about soils in a high tunnel this is where it gets to be really one of those conundrums, because the high tunnel is such a unique environment and it's hotter in there and it's more concentrated. The organic matter in the soil breaks down faster. So you have to replace that organic matter consistently. So it comes down to, what are you going to replace it with? I just told you not to put manures in there and why. So what else are you going to use? Leaves, straw, grass clippings, coffee grounds, kitchen scraps. So anything that's not manure based. So you're going to get kind of creative. You can try using sawdust. Keep in mind that you do have a denitrification process that happens. So you have to keep that in mind, that your nitrogen is going to go up like this. And then when the bacteria runs out, that's breaking down all that sawdust and putting out all that nitrogen, when it runs out of food, it crashes. So it goes like that. So that's the denitrification drop. It works, sawdust is great. But keep in mind the downside of it. So let's take a little break. I'm curious about the elevator. I have this vision, you know, the door is doing this.
So is your double wall?
I tried. I have a little squirrel can air blower for it. And my husband and I looked at that and we tried it. And if there's any error, if there's any puncture in the plastic, it doesn't work. I finally just pulled it out.
I've been toying with digging a giant pit and creating a wall of peony in the backyard with all of the perforated pipe buried 8 feet deep.
I've got pictures of a high tunnel that did that. So if you want to see how that's done like that, because there is one here.
Is there one here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. They don't use it. The plastic came off and they never put the plastic back on.
Kind of defeats the purpose.
Kind of does, but it's very elaborate system, very, very elaborate. And it's an expensive greenhouse to run because it's a closed, there's no roll up sides, it's closed. And so they've got big blowers and swamp pads, and then they've got this underground system.
I've been toying with it. It's digging the pit. It keeps me away from doing it.
I have a whole slide, I have a whole PowerPoint thing on it. And it's here in China, it's up on Arabian Lane.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. David Lewis and Ellen Green own the property. And they, like I said, I don't think they put a cover on it. The cover came off. And so they haven't used it. I don't have pictures of that high tunnel in here. I have a picture of the other one. There's 2 of them on that property.
When you're direct seeding, how this is my mind at work. Do you lay down mulch first and then put, the hole for the seed, or do you do the seeding first? Mark where you put the seeds and then put the mulch down, or the black plastic.
So if I'm direct sowing,
Yeah,
and by the way, my favorite tool for seeding with is a wide bladed screwdriver.
okay, no problem. Yeah,
Dig a little furrow. No,
Yeah.
I don't do that. I just dig a little furrow. I only go, because the nice thing about that wide bladed screwdriver comes down like this.
right.
That right?
Yep.
And so I've got it marked.
Okay,
Right?
okay,
And so I just run this through the soil that depth.
okay,
I'm not poking anything. I'm not working any harder than I have to.
I like that idea.
So that's my screwdriver, my favorite gardening tool.
Okay. And I have 2 big things of Miracle-Gro.
Yeah.
I
Put-
have used that.
Put them on Facebook Marketplace. Somebody will pick them up. What do I do? Put it on your petunias, your annuals. Yeah, use it on your flowers.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So here's how I would do it. So this is the soil. Here's my root irrigation. I've just taken my screwdriver and made a little furrow.
Okay.
I use pelleted seed.
Okay.
Especially for carrots, because now I can see what each carrot is at, and I'm not overseeding and going, pulling out a bunch and going.
Oh, this one looks pretty good. That one doesn't.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't throw anybody. Pelleted seed, and then I just gently backfill it, and that's all I do.
Okay.
And where I just plant it, I will put some mulch down on top of it.
Okay.
But if I'm direct seeding, then I'm not typically putting black plastic.
Okay. Okay.
It depends. If it's green beans, then I have a whole different system. I do put black plastic down. If it's cucumbers, I use black plastic. Because they're all like hot soil.
Right. Anything that likes a hot soil. Plastic or okay. Okay. Yeah, that is a really neat
For my raised,
idea.
for my raised beds, I
Fine
just use a
line.
1/4 inch reed. That is so excellent up here. That's one of the ones that comes in the channel.
Well, again, it's, how is it UV protected?
Yeah, it's obviously a market greenhouse. But
As long as it's UV protected, you should be okay. But everybody behave, all that plastic behaves a little different. Yeah. I bring my.
That's not very. All the time.
I was out and I gave her.
Once I got like the last vegetables from here. Used to play with it somewhere, it's like. Then again, nothing for me, nothing, but nothing for me. Just it. It just didn't grow. And we got staged to- That's it. I know, but I was thinking by the time that.
my first year I had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, it's a window for the cat, like there's a window in there, but I think she was going to make it a. The dog, the rabbits can't get in, but yeah. Pollinator. Now I'll have more air, because I have like 2 windows and.
Held up to the handle pretty good. Occasionally a couple of big ones.
Now it's one of my garden last year that I did with like this 9-foot square. And I had like fencing around it so that she's a digger. She doesn't get in there. And like a bird, like my. And my friends like, yeah, but I thought, well, oh no. They can help a little. And as soon as the plants kind of down, it means came up, but they stopped.
The only problem I ever had with the rabbit is they weren't having the plants. They dug a hole. They dug these burrows. That was the only.
That's great. So, yeah, they have more data. I don't think the other deadline. They did want it. And I think so I showed you guys. Like there's not enough. Wow. Yeah, I thought right.
My original plan. Yes, I have a son. That's so far away. And so I said to my husband, put it over here. Yes, there's a half dead tree here. You know, and the neighbor has a couple trees. But I just need 6 hours of sun, right? This would be a lot more convenient. Having a break by the patio was there. As it goes out. So I figured that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Some tile, kind of center section. All I've done so far is just like one raise. We'll see how that goes. If I wanted to have one on that side, I so far it's not usually there. Like a little thing that tells me, you know, how cold it is in there. And yeah, I think it does get, is it only 15 degrees, or 15 degrees of rain? But once the sun comes up, that's a good story.
it gets better.
Especially.
Spinach.
But he doesn't. Want to.
Yeah, instant pull.
The other day you go out and decide. And, you know, the very,
That's something that's not obvious, but I hate them. I mean, eventually. Yeah, I was forgetting the water. Yeah. Starting to get.
That's not hard.
I was like, that's exactly 45 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, more than I have. Yeah, I ended up doing very short.
Yeah.
Yes.
I grew up in a house.
It's often below 70 degrees. That's your point.
We were leaving and get the bags. And we came home today. I had no. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got home and 3 miles. Yeah, they knew.
So the next part of this is going to be some of the ideas I've come across. Some concepts. And some easy stuff that everybody can do, right? So this is I like to drink a lot of soda or or juice or something concept. And this is just 1 liter bottles have been, bottom has been cut off and now they become a cloche. And the little cloche becomes a greenhouse, and so you can take the little cap and put it on at night, take it off during the day. A little fiddly, but it's very effective. For a while, Culligan was throwing away all their water bottles, their used water bottles. They don't do that anymore. They send them back to corporate when they get recycled. So for a while, we were taking them and cutting the bottoms off, which was quite the science, cutting the bottoms off. And so now you had a tray, but now you had this big bottle that was a big cloche. And you could really start the season very early using those inside or outside. So those are very good. These, you set them up in your house. Gets real hot in there really quick, so you're managing that temperature and you're managing the humidity. Really important. All these pictures are taken here in Laramie County. This is a piece of that flexible cattle panel I've been talking about, and I showed you the pictures earlier. 16 feet long, 48 inches wide. Well, this is on a cattle ranch, and so this is a piece of flexible cattle panel that lost the war with a cow. And so now the owner has used it as like a miniature hoop and put plastic over the top of it. She's also at 7,200 feet here in Laramie County. She's growing watermelons underneath there. And she's quite successful growing watermelons in that situation. She can get it hot enough in there. This just reminds me of miniature Conestogas. But this is raised beds. This is PVC. And little PVC clips. And then the material that they're using is called Ramie or Spunbound. And that is this material. And it's also an insect exclusion material. So when I grow cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, this is what I put on there to keep the caterpillars off, the butterflies off it. But this is also what they've used to keep the beetles off their potato plants. I don't know how successful they were, but there it is. But again, this is it goes by a lot of different names: Agribond, Spunbound, floating row covers. Not very expensive. But this is what it looked like when they pulled up the sides. This is just, they're growing potatoes under here. And you can see they've got a PVC pipe, and they've taken like a 1-inch PVC and they've bent it. They just gently bent it over. And so they put the smaller PVC into the larger PVC to hold it. And then they just used clips, put that floating roll cover over there. That's kind of a neat way to do it on raised beds. Four by 4x6 pop-up. For a while, this was really popular with the master gardeners a couple years ago. They were able, there's a couple of them that were able to start an amazing amount of plants in there. And they were doing it, they were starting plants in March. They would put one of those milk parlor heaters in there. And they kept it warm that way. Another person used those Christmas tree lights, those old ones, those D3s, because they put out a lot of heat. And so she had Christmas tree lights in there and turn them on at night. And, and they worked. Yeah, they worked. This is one I found at Sam's Club. And I looked at that, and the stakes that they had for it were like these little pup tent stakes, you know, kind of like chopsticks trying to hold this thing down. And I just looked at it, and of course I had to go inside of it too, right? And it's only got a couple of little vents at the top. And sure enough, I'm in there looking at this thing, and another master gardener comes up to me and goes, "Are you gonna buy that?" And I'm going, "No." And everything engaged in conversation about how we would use it. And we concluded that its best application would be in a basement or a garage to grow things, start stuff in there, or even to put orchids or African violets or whatever fussy house plant you're working in. But this is not one you would put outside. I did see one outside that year. It only lasted a year and then I think it blew away. Yeah. So it might look good and it might be cheap. But this is definitely not outside. So here's what some other people are doing in Laramie County, but they're using electricity with their greenhouse. So that's 7,500 feet. This is the same person that took that piece of broken cattle panel and is growing watermelons underneath it. This is another one. I walked in and, you know, I like looked at her and said, "You want me to take my shoes off?" It was just that clean. She's growing everything in there hydroponically. Even at 7,500 feet, she's got the front door open. She's got a fan at the top here, pushing the air in. And then on the back side, she's got it open down here. And there's another fan on the floor. So even in this little 8x10, she was having a hard time moving the air and keeping it going because it can get really hot in there really fast. So keeping that controlled is difficult. But she was able to grow a lot. These are all tomato plants in here. Those are all tomato plants. And she was putting up enough tomatoes to last her family, which was pretty, she had her mom and an in-law and kids. So I want to say there was like 8 people, but she was putting up enough tomatoes for her family for the whole year. Just can't. Yep. This was also here in Cheyenne. This one, I haven't seen this one since I've been there to look at it. This is another one I don't recommend for this area. It's all plastic. It's plastic windows in plastic frame. And you can see it's got some vents on the top. It's only got 2 vents. Well, there were vents that came open like this, and they had no sooner put it up than the wind came by and blew the vents off, and they never found the top vents. And this is in the point, so someplace in the point there's vents kicking around. Yeah. This is the inside of it. They ended up taking silicone and siliconing everything together in here. And it still wasn't enough because the wind would get it and it just took it. There's a vent up there, back vent, but it's just not enough ventilation to get this, keep it cool. Because the hardest thing you're going to do is cool that greenhouse. In the daytime, that temperature is going to just jump. So this is Claire. My hat's off to Claire because he has just really taken greenhouses to a whole different level. This is something he built himself. This is with electricity. So he's got the big vents on the outside. He's got the door there. It was still not enough ventilation. This high tunnel it's buried down into the ground. And then these walls here, he took power poles and built walls with the power poles and covered them in that white plastic, backfilled them with soil. That's a lot of work. And about 30 feet long, if I remember correctly, 30 feet long. It's not very wide, it's only about 20 feet wide. Then that's what I said. Do I take my shoes off when I go in here, Claire? Then there's weed barrier fabric underneath all this squash. He's had to make some windows here. Got a big fan up there. He's got trellis to grow things up. So it's pretty elaborate. A lot of work, pretty elaborate. Yeah. So his yield back in 2008, 175 pounds of winter squash and 300 pounds of summer squash. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot. But Yeah, I was impressed. This is his chicken coop where he took the sides off and then put plastic on instead of wood. So the tops, everything, sides, everything plastic. But again, you can see where after he built it, he realized he didn't have enough ventilation, so he's cutting in windows. Cut those in, those 3 in, he's got the door open. Backside, it's got a big sliding door. It's got a vent up at the top. So you can see, you know, even after these people built these high tones, these greenhouses, they realized really quickly that the ventilation is their challenge, trying to cool it, trying to keep that air moving.
Have they found any sort of heat from the cubic feet per minute that they're trying to move?
I can get you the formula if you want it. I've got it. Yeah.
It seems like they're pumping lots of air.
It's the number's big depending upon the size of your structure, but the number is big, even on the small ones. So
I had a 12 by 15, I basically ripped the north and south sides off every summer, up to about 4 feet in the air. And left the front door open so that I had complete ventilation except on the east wall.
and you were probably still challenged.
It was still hot in there.
So I keep talking about the ventilation. 85 degrees is your target temperature. So when you get above that, when you get into the 95 degrees, your plants stop, they shut down. They stop functioning, they're just gonna sit there. Their blossoms are gonna drop off. They're trying their best to dump as much, especially if it's humid in there, they're gonna try to dump as much humidity and transpiration. You can see blisters on tomato plants from that. So the plants really struggle, they get stressed. Above this, up here, they're really that's a stressor. It's a big stressor. Okay. He's cut holes in the roof. On this plastic. I don't know if Clara's still doing this or not. But this was his watering system. He was in containers. He was trying to do an underground system to heat the soil. And so he had all these black cans, these 55-gallon barrels. And he had a lot of PVC running underneath all this, trying to heat the soil. So he's trying to grow year round with
Did
it.
it work?
I don't know. I don't know if he ever finished it or. Yeah, not sure. He also had a coffee maker in there. Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, I mean, there's an advantage to having a coffee maker in there, right? Or having electricity in there. That's
Yeah.
your coffee maker, your teapot, you know, yeah. The good things with it. This is north of Cheyenne. This is really kind of a fun little greenhouse. These panels here slide. So those 3 panels slide open, slide closed. Shade cloth, because it gets too hot in there. She's got 55-gallon barrel drums in there to heat it in the winter, keep warm at night. So it's a balancing act with that temperature. You know, look at her. She's got a phone in there.
That's a must.
Yeah, there's got a phone in there. But this is a multi-purpose one. It's got an area where she can go direct, potting, sheds, potting tables, benches to grow things on. So there's a lot happening in this little greenhouse. This is another one at altitude. So again, it's like, how many windows can you see on there that open or doors that open, and then the big ventilation system on there. So when that fan comes on, you cannot hear yourself think. That's another reason why I like the non-electric roll up the sides, because it's a lot quieter in there. So.
Passion added fan. That is just very loud.
when this thing kicks on, it's, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Watering system with a timer on it. She was doing it and just direct on the soil, then she went to raised beds in there. Everything grows up on the trellis system in there. But again, she was able to really put out a lot of produce. This was just she direct sowed everything, including her tomatoes. And was able to get a 2-pound tomatoes out of here. Yeah. But this is also the same person that overloved her soil. And that's where all the aphids, picture where the aphids are. Cucumbers, peas, she was amazing green thumb. Just amazing. Okay, this is a very fancy high-end glass greenhouse, 7,800 feet. This is on the way up to Kurt Gowdy. Started out as a lizard house. Started off as a lizard house, and apparently the kid, the one at the lizard house, lost his interest in lizards after a while. Yeah, the back wall is painted a dark gray. Then they grew a lot of things up. They joked about this being the mezzanine section. Everything was in containers. They got tomatoes at that altitude to grow year round. This cucumber here, see this big long guy? That's an Armenian cucumber. So how many of you have grown Armenians? Yeah. So an Armenian cucumber is more, it's actually a melon. But people who have a hard time digesting cucumbers, an Armenian is going to be the answer. It tastes just like a cucumber. You're not going to know the difference. They get big. They get big. It's a meal for a party.
Good. Big advantage of having the simple, racing blocks as part of the building. Does that keep the temp down?
That keeps it warm. Remember, this started off as a lizard house,
Right.
but this helped keep it warm.
By painting it a dark color, but if they painted it a lighter color, would that help offset?
Sure, but it's also at 7,800 feet.
Different challenge.
Different challenge. Totally different challenge. Okay. This is about as cheap and simple as you can get. This is cattle panel. Some plywood, well, maybe not cheap anymore. 2x4s. And the cattle panel is, they built the 2x4 frames, they put the cattle panel in there, stapled the cattle panel in there, and then covered it with plastic. Not enough ventilation in here. They ended up taking the plastic off to get the ventilation in the summer, but they were able to start in this in late February, early March. This is what the front door looked like, so not very expensive. Inside, they've got their drip irrigation down, makes it easy. They were able to do a lot of lettuce, a lot of salad greens real early in there. But pretty easy to do, inexpensive. Not enough ventilation. Like I said, they ended up taking the cover off because it got too hot in there. So this is another one from a master gardener. And this has been fun watching this one evolve. So again, this is PVC with plastic over it. So you can make a high tunnel out of PVC pretty easily. And if you want to do it, I've got plans. So if you're interested, I have plans for that. Back window. Kind of a little sloppy, but this was his first year in there, so he wasn't quite sure what was going on, what to expect. The second year, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. There's the black plastic. Yeah, he's got his wind braces on that west side, But he's got his black plastic down, so he's heating the soil. Remember, that's really important. Got everything in rows. There's his box fan. There's the chair. I need a place to sit and watch my plants grow. You can see the tomatoes. I mean, just beautiful.
No coffee pot, Lisa?
No electricity. Yeah, no electricity.
Some overhead irrigation. You got the strip lines running out.
No, those are the corals are just for his tomato plants to grow up. So you can see where the tomatoes are with that. He's just getting them to grow up that, but he needs to prune a lot more ruthlessly. So yeah, you can see the big difference from year one to the second summer going, oh, I get it. I get it. Okay, this is a 10 by 24. This is my neighbor's, just a mile up the road. That this again, this is all PVC and PVC with plastic on it. He's used rebar and he's put the PVC over the rebar. You can see over there. So just raised beds. And he's got a 4-way joint up there. He's just attached everything in there. He's since gone back in and put another purlin. So he's got a purlin that goes in like this and one that goes up there to give it more strength. A lot of you guys going, oh, I know what she's saying. And then I got somebody going,
Because I started that way.
Yeah.
And then went back and did that, and I eventually went to 2x4.
yeah, yeah. Plastic has lasted them quite a long time. I think the plastic lasted about 6 years, 7 years on it. It's not bad. Okay. All right, Janet, thank you. I kind of lost touch with Claire. Do I know if there's any plans to restore the greenhouses at the High Plains Arboretum? We're going to have a speaker in on Thursday that will talk about the Arboretum, so that's a good time to ask. Yeah, once you take the plastic off the rabbits.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, so you can see how this is Brian. That's a rebar right there. Just pounded it into the ground, put the PVC over the top of it. Flexed it a little bit at the top. Took him a couple afternoons to build this, so it wasn't a lot of work.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, you know, tab A into slot B. That's all good. And do I have anyone in here that quilts, does quilting? If you can quilt, you can build this. A raised beds, water system to each one of these beds. Wide enough that she can get a wheelbarrow down the middle of it. So this, they got it planted, got it built end of March. And this is what it looked like in July.
Oh my goodness.
So this is one of those magical things with these high tunnels is that, again, when I say they can compress the growing season, it really pushes these plants to grow because the temperature is so much more consistent. They're not dealing with the wind, they're not dealing with the day temperature doing this. It's just a lot more consistent. We did have a discussion about pruning, but she's also, her husband thought it'd be fun, so he put some corn in here. There's corn going back in there. Some mustards, but there's just a whole bunch of stuff growing in there. Not the whole bunch. This is a fiberglass. I think this is actually more of a water tank that's been converted into a greenhouse. So these are the vents on the top. Someone had mentioned earlier about the wax and the spring-loaded vents. And so when it gets so hot inside that the wax lets go and the top opens up like that. And then as it gets cooler out, the vent drops down. So this is Still not enough ventilation in there. It's not enough. And also, you know, if you look at the color, that's some really weird light. And so the plants are gonna have some issues with that. She did a pretty good job growing in here, got a little gangplank going down the middle. Did well with tomatoes, peppers, lettuce. You can see, I mean, the tomatoes were really well, did really, really well. It's a lot of options. Okay, 14 by 20. And this is where measure the site, figure out exactly how big your normal garden is. Because this is my first high tunnel. And as soon as I planted it, I walk in, I looked at my husband and go, I just grew my tunnel. And he's like, so this is, the ends of this are polycarbonate and then it's metal. And then metal hoops on there, but this is the roll up sides. So there's a little gearbox there and the gearbox slides up this track right here. So there's just a long stick on there, shepherd's crook type thing, and you just turn it. And it turns pretty easily. I never had any problems with it. Yeah. This is what it looked like. I planted it, or a couple months after I planted it. So again, Murphy's Law. As soon as you plant your greenhouse, you will outgrow it. You will outgrow it. The biggest structure you can afford and will fit the site. Yeah. So this is what I got next. Really stepped it up. See, there's my hoops, my cattle panel hoops. Couple raised beds for flowers. I have chairs. No electricity.
How many square feet of garden do you have inside the house?
Well, both inside and outside at one time was 5,000 square feet. So so vegetable gardening is my passion. Yeah, that's my passion. Does anybody want to help me? I single hand this. Okay, so I single hand this. And when you do it that way, you really have to learn how to maximize your time and make things as efficient as possible. And that's why I talk about using the black plastic and mulching and the drip irrigation and the timers. So, because that all helps, it all helps. And then every once in a while I get behind and I go get my husband and it's like, can you please help me weed the kids? So, but you can see in here, I've got mulch down. So I'm minimizing my weeds. And I've got good canopy. This is a different year from the one I showed you before, but these are all peppers growing along and through here. The tomato tunnel, green beans, pole beans. Got my flowers in there. Oh, don't ever grow petunias in your high tunnel. Wow. They go to seed and you cannot get rid of them. Same thing with California poppy, cosmos. They go to seed in this. Oh. Okay.
Now, when you figure out what you're going to rotate, is that after you harvested everything?
So I map it out. I do a map just like you guys did for the vegetable class. So I know where everything is at. And so every year the rotation marches along.
Okay.
So if I had tomatoes over here, then they're in the middle. And then whatever was on this side gets flipped over to there. And so it just marches along. Yeah. But I try to grow the whole grocery store in there. So it makes rotation a little easier. A little easier. So a lot of people will use a high tunnel just strictly to grow tomatoes. And you can't grow endlessly back to back the same crop. You wear out the soil, you get diseases, bugs. So you end up with a lot of problems. So that mix of plants in there is really important. And in one year I planted oats in there and as a sacrificial crop, and I just rotated I just rototilled all the oats under.
For the whole thing,
That was interesting.
is that a whole season or is that just part?
No, I planted the oats. Keep in mind, it's a high tunnel, so I can keep it warm in there. So I planted the oats, and oats like just like cool soil. So I planted it in March, got them up and growing. This, well, like this, and then rototilled the whole thing under.
And then planted your normal,
One year I left all the mulch down. And I had this, and this was kind of actually countywide, but I had this biblical explosion of grass spiders. Yeah, biblical.
And they didn't fly, but boy, they were there.
I don't know where they came from, but the soil, everything moved. It was just really creepy. I just ignored it. You have no idea how hard it is to ignore a million spiders. Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Consistency in your
Yeah.
house is the name of the game. People dig holes and just put a roof on top of a trench.
Yeah.
That works up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, there's one that's done that way by, they're master gardeners. And they're just up like Tranquility and something up in that neighborhood. And they just dug down into the ground, and they put the high tunnel over the top of it.
Did that help with the hot? Because they had the.
Now they still have massive ventilation in, but they're growing some pretty cool stuff in there. But everything's in containers. And so now you've got that container issue. And how are you going to keep your soil healthy in containers? That's your challenge. Yep. So Diana's asking, are sunflowers a good sacrificial crop? Yeah, no. I grow sunflowers and then take the stalks and run them through a mulcher and mulch them up and then incorporate it into your soil. But so if you go back to the soil fertility class, soil amendment class, and I talk about all the different things you can seed to cover crops. So veg, wheat, oats, field peas. Yeah, there's a whole list of things that you can grow. You don't want to let them go to seed. And it's strictly what's called a green manure. And you just plow it all under, and it adds a lot of slow release nitrogen and a lot of organic matter. Those sacrificial crops are amazing.
I wondered about alfalfa. Have you tried that? I'm familiar with alternating corn and alfalfa fields.
So alfalfa is a perennial, and it puts down a taproot. And that crown can get like that. You know, I've seen crowns in my field that are this big. So an alfalfa seed's expensive and it needs an inoculant. Yeah, so it's not one you would really want to do that with, just because of the expense. Yeah, but oats, cheap. Wheat, another cheap one. Winter wheat, spring wheat, just grow it. Easy to grow, easy to grow.
and how often do you do that?
Oh, like once a year.
Oh, so you do it every year?
You could do it every year, every other year. You can do it once and go, I'm never doing it again. You know, because I was fighting oats for a whole summer. Because not all of it germinated all at the same time. And that was also the summer I had all the spiders. I got a lot of phone calls about, what do I do? How do I kill all these spiders? And I go, they will go away. Just ignore it. I was like, I can't ignore it. Don't go out in your backyard then. They'll go away.
Do they do anything? Do they bother anything? They're just there.
They're just there. They're just there.
Just creep you out.
It was just creepy. It was just creepy. Yeah, it was interesting.
Arachnophobia.
You know, and I'm really not, I really don't have that problem, but some people do. Hey, time-wise, what am I doing? Okay. So different growing methods. This again is that high tunnel, a greenhouse that's at, what did I say, 7,200 feet. It's kind of a Gothic style. She was growing in the soil that she went to raised beds. It's again, raised beds and containers are going to challenge you because the raised bed, how are you going to amend the soil in the raised bed? How are you going to turn that soil? So now you're using like a hand trowel or a small spade to get in there and turn it and amend it. And trying to keep that fertility is going to also be a little more challenging. She did an amazing job with it. And grew had a lot of success. Soil's going to get warmer faster. And that's actually a good thing. Warm soil is good. That's your friend.
Now, if you're gonna be doing raised beds outside of a greenhouse, yeah, but then, you know, are you gonna have maybe a little less of the trouble amending soil?
So the question is, if you're doing a raised bed outside, are you going to have the same trouble or is it going to be better? You're still going to have the same issues as the soil fertility, and after a while you play that soil out. So you're going to have to amend it. You're going to have to get up on top of that raised bed and turn that soil, or get a rototiller in there and turn soil, and put your kitchen scraps in there, your coffee grounds. So you're going to have to still work that soil. You can't get away from it, even though it's a raised bed. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. This is that greenhouse at 7,500 feet. She's growing everything in coconut fiber. So she's doing it hydroponically. When I showed this to Karen at UW, her comment was that it's a real easy way to get root rot because it's sitting in water. It's sitting in and when you start doing it hydroponically, that's a whole new science. And you've got to have a specific formula, hydroponic formula for your specific plant. So if you're growing tomatoes, you've got a specific hydroponic formula, fertilizer formula, just for that. So you're not going to be making your own fertilizer, you're going to be buying it. You're going to be going down to Colorado to grow Colorado, and you're going to be getting hydroponic soil fertilizer from them. Lettuce is going to have its own formula. Peppers will have its own formula. So each vegetable that you're growing has its own hydroponic NPK micronutrient formula. And I've seen where people just kind of go, well, one size fits all. Now, I've seen tomato plants with calcium deficiency, and that's kind of ugly. And then you see other plants with different deficiencies. So all of these formulas are special for the plant. So just keep that in mind. Hydroponics is the future. That's how we're going to grow our food. That's kind of the demand, and it uses less water, less land. You could put a hydroponic facility on the side of a garage like they did up in Jackson. You could put it on the roof of a building. So it uses less space, it produces more food, but it's precise. It's a very precise science. This is the greenhouse that was a lizard house that was converted into a greenhouse. And again, everything was in containers. And this is amazing. It's just amazing what they produced and pulled out of there. But over time, they start having problems, and then it becomes, well, what am I doing wrong? Or why isn't this growing? And then you lose interest, and it's all because of you growing in containers, and you've got to take that soil out at the end of the season, dump it out, refresh it, add some more stuff to it.
What if, I'm thinking about or specifically my strawberry bed, because that's not something I can like pull the soil out of.
Yeah.
So just keep adding organics and.
Yep. Good compost, your compost. If you live in town, tree leaves are just amazing.
I'm strong.
Yep.
You have a friend that lives out in the county and has a ton of pine trees. She hates all the pine needles, so. It's gonna be my source. My source for pine needles.
Lost for words on that one. So growing direct into the soil. I can control a lot more factors. I can do a meaningful soil test and know exactly what I've got, what I need. I can amend the whole thing. I can let my husband loose with the rototiller. Couple laps, that's all it takes. So I can amend over a bigger area. I'm much more efficient. Much more efficient. But everything, drip irrigation, that's easier to do. So this comes back down to, this was a huge garden. And so everything had to be very efficient, very time efficient. Black plastic, even in a high tunnel, black plastic. You would think that, well, keep saying you got to control the temperature in there, but you want warm soil, remember? The tomato plants want warm soil. Watermelon wants warm soil. And after I did this, I soon learned that there's better ways to hang a watermelon than using baling twine. Okay, construction details. So going back to Claire's high tunnel, and this, he has used chain link fence metal. So this is a serious high tunnel. He's in a very windy area. He's right at the base of the foothills, so he gets slammed. So this is some very serious stuff. He's used an interesting way to tack on his plastic. He's just used some plastic strips and tacked it in. It works. And then there's wiggle wire. And this was the topic of discussion earlier. The wiggle wire has a channel. Okay. And wiggle wire, I cannot find my sample of wiggle wire, so I don't know where I left it. The wiggle wire is about 8 feet long and it's like this. More or less. Okay. So you get your plastic on this, and once you get this down, it's actually really easy to do. Once you get your plastic over the top of this and you get your wiggle wire in here, this is locked in. It's not going anywhere.
And how do you attach the channel? Do you generally screw it?
You screw it on.
You screw it on.
Yep.
Do you have to bend that wiggle wire to get it in there, or do you stick it in from the end?
No, you just work it in. It's very fine. When I call it wiggle wire, it's because it's 8 feet long and you start putting it in, you just work it in. It's actually very flexible. You work it in. Well, the tail end of it is doing this. Okay. So it's kind of, don't stand close to it, but it fits in there really well. And so you can see it just locks right in. It just fits in really nice.
And if you're lazy like me, you can skip a couple of those and it'll still hold it in nicely.
Yeah, we just recovered my small high tunnel, and the guy that helped us really didn't understand the concept. And he missed a whole area and it popped out, but everything else held together. So it's pretty forgiving. But once it's in, it's in. Okay, this is the other high tunnel north of Cheyenne. And again, he just screwed everything together. There's just a screw holding that together. It works. Not very elegant, not how I would do it, but it works. Yeah. And then this is just some plastic that he's tacked down on top of the plastic. Okay. So on a high tunnel, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. You can see this board down here. This is called the kick board. And then this is the hip board. So a kick board and a hip board, and then a purlin. So all of these add rigidity to that funnel so that it doesn't move like this. And then when the wind hits it broadside, it shouldn't bow in. Because you got enough strength in there. Then there's another purlin running the top. And if I were to do this again, I would probably put 2 purlins in at the top, not just one. But all of this adds rigidity and helps hold this up. So So why is this important? This kickboard helps, helps keep some critters out. Not all of them, but it helps keep some critters out. But it's also a place where when I roll the side down, this rolls and it can bump up against this. And then I've got line that also helps hold the sides down up against that kickboard. Just a simple gearbox, my little shepherd's crook wand there, I just roll it up like that. It's really easy. This high tunnel is now morphed into 100 feet. And so this is a 100-foot long pole and it still rolls up really easily. Really easy. So this is 2 layers of PVC, or excuse me, 2 layers of plastic, and then the wiggle wire, the channel and the wiggle wire. So even with 2 layers, that's still really easy to put that in. I say that, that's how my husband put it on for me. So it was really easy. Hey, so Yvonne, you were asking, how do I anchor these down? Okay. So this sleeve goes down 2 feet. And then this rib is then anchored, bolted to the kickboard in 3 places. So this is, it's not going to move up at all because it's bolted to the kickboard. And my husband didn't think it was enough. He's an engineer, right? And so I now have an earth anchor, and so that's what's this is here is there's an earth anchor that goes down another 2 feet. So I think it's a little overkill. And I've had some friends. Little man Taylor.
Then on the wind side or the non?
Oh, it's on both sides.
How many of those did you install? On every.
So this is the earth anchor right here.
They won't start by 2 down.
They went 2 feet down, but that's the earth anchor over here. That's what that looks like.
Don't be spending too much time in Florida. It's like hurricane anchors.
Yeah, that's hurricanes.
So he took a whole hog and he modified a little attachment to the whole hog. And so he just put the attachment up here in the whole hog. And he was able to put him down into the ground in like 10 seconds. So he was a happy man.
It worked.
It worked. It worked. Yeah, it worked. I don't think the earth anchors are necessary. Because I think these by themselves going 2 feet down is enough. And then with the kickboards and then the backside, we framed that in. So. And the front side too, we framed it in. So you can see the back side of that that's framed in with 2x4s. And then it's anchored down at the base with rebars. It's another 2 feet down into the soil. You want those back ends also to be open. You know, you want air, light to come in. But again, I can roll up these sides and I can control that temperature really, really close. Because this is what I'm aiming for. And I've got my thermometers inside, so I know what's going on. And I will roll the sides all the way to the top, and I've never had to use fans in there.
You're able to get it under 95 when the ambient outside is that hot.
Yep. So the trick that I was taught from a gentleman down at Colorado State University at their research center, their high tunnel research center, he just takes and hoses down the top. So he just takes the garden hose out and he just sprays down the top of this, and he can cool it within minutes and drop the temperature by 10 degrees just by spraying water on top of the high tunnel.
We have a keeper house at our place, and we got a shade cloth for it.
Yeah.
We really started getting them off, and I'll tell you what, within 10-15 minutes, it dropped 20 degrees.
Yep. So that shade cloth material that I passed around, that white stuff, that works beautifully. Yeah, so there's a bunch of ways to cool them.
Well, are you rolling down the sides every night and have rolling them up in the morning during the summer, or just kind of depends on that?
It depends upon the weather, and I only mess with that in the spring and the fall.
In summer, it's just like.
In the summer, I don't worry a lot about it. Okay, so some creature comforts, and I put this in here because I encourage you to have creature comforts in there. Don't, because it's really easy to get burned out because these are so intense. Have a chair in there, have a table in there, so you have a workspace. So when I bring in a tray of plants, where I've started my plants, and I've worked them out, now they're outside, they're inside. Then I finally get them up here. I now have a table to set them on. I've got shelving and the chair, sit in the chair and you fall asleep, which is okay, right? That's okay. I have the garden cat in there. Again, yeah. So this high tunnel is kind of morphed a little bit, but there's the Adirondack chair. There's now the little table, some jug of iced tea down there. This is the high tunnel that's at 7,200 feet, where she had the raised beds. There's got chairs in there too. Okay. So we did talk a little bit about hydroponics. And again, this is the wave of the future. Absolutely. But no room for error. It is science. It is absolute science. And then this is from Village Farms. She says pound for pound, we can produce the same amount on 50 acres under glass as 1,500 acres outside. So hydroponics is really, yeah, it's leaping, absolutely leaping. Okay. Cucumbers, watermelons, artichokes, carrots, peppers, tomatoes, the watermelon. So there isn't much you can't grow in there. Grown sweet potatoes, that's hit or miss. Some years I get a really good crop, other years it's you pull it out and go shoestrings. And so every year's different. I've grown gourds in there, sweet corn. There's not much I haven't grown in the high tunnel. So it is a pretty magical place. It's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to have problems. But if you just go back to the rules and remember, you want to reduce the humidity, increase the airflow. Not all fertilizers work in there. Make your own. Grow your own plants. Grow your own plants. So you do a lot. Water on the ground, no sprinkler system. And questions, thoughts, comments?
Next. For a watermelon tank it down. I would think it would fall
I got pretty creative with netting. I made my own netting originally, and I used baling twine and made a net, kind of like a fisherman's net. Well, the watermelon grew into that netting, and so I had this really uniquely shaped watermelon. Then I tried nylons, and I tried a few other things, but it's pretty easy to grow them up. Yeah.
Do you have a problem balancing when the fruit gets so heavy on that gallon?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I've had to be pretty creative. So I usually will put in gardening stakes or T-posts. And I'll pound the T-posts in on either side of those and I'll tie them. Because otherwise they do this or they do that. So yeah, I'll do tomatoes on one side. I'll do green beans on the other side. I'll do salad greens down the middle. This because I've got the black plastic in there because I'm trying to keep the soil hot. So I'm not doing that. So get an inexpensive meat thermometer, digital one or whatever, and just keep track of the soil temperature. I keep a log. I know the weight of everything that comes out. I count the peppers, I'll weigh the peppers. So I know what's coming out. That way I know what's successful and what's not, because I don't want to keep growing something that I don't want to reward failure, right? So that's why you weigh it and you count it. Yep. Yeah, that was a lot of watermelon, 67 pounds of watermelon. Almost 300 pounds of cucumbers. So you can grow a lot of food in a small space in one of these high tunnels. And I figured I could grow enough for easily 20 people and still have enough to put up at the end of the season. So it's just that much. So this is my story. Yeah. So
Impressive, very impressive.
Yes, very interesting.
what's that? Say that again?
Spring, start earlier. And so then fall. Later.
Yeah.
By how much?
So I can start as early as February, late February in there. And I can go to Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah. So when I say season extension, it just depends upon how long you want to keep going. How early do you want to start? And so when you start in February, again, that black plastic down, walnut soil, and then cultures. Doesn't matter what they're, if they're colored in jugs, if they're walls of water, soda bottles, whatever. Put those, you need those cultures, and then you take that spun bound, wherever that went to, and you put spun bound down over the top of it to help over sheets or whatever you have. And you put that down over the top of it to hold heat in. Then in the morning, you know, you're watching your thermometer, you got the receiving end inside, so you know what's going on. You run out there, you take everything off the top, because you want it to warm up. Otherwise, you're holding cold air in there. So you take the spun bound off and open things up. You know, you're not going to open the tunnel up, but you're going to take the covers off, let everything warm up at night, you cover everything better. So it's a little fiddly, it's a little bit of work, dedication, discipline to do all that. And then the same thing in the fall. So now it's more challenging in the fall, because now you've got mature plants in there. So you're gonna trim everything down as much as you can. Again, sheets, floating roll cover, whatever you've got, and you just cover everything. And then in the morning you uncover things, and at night you cover things again. But yeah, I've done what's called low tunnels, which is a tunnel within a tunnel. And so I've got little low tunnels that I'll build in there, and then I'll put another tunnel over the top of that. And I've gone year round in there and grown all sorts of herbs. This year would have been exceptionally difficult because of the minus 25. Yeah, all bets are off on that. Yeah, there's. If you've got the space and you want to do this, this is worth pursuing. Definitely worth pursuing. Not in my backyard. This is one of those, and so it's like a fantasy question. If you had the space and the time, would you have a high tunnel?
I didn't have a light.
Yeah.
Is it better to have it out in the open, like I could have it, or have it shielded by like a fence?
So, okay, so the question is it better to have it out in the open or someplace where it's shielded by a fence? So mine was pretty much out in the open. I did have, for a while, I did have trees on the west side, so I was shading it in the afternoon. So that west side tree shade was hugely important. And I lost those trees, and so then I had to use something different. So afternoon shade on that high tunnel is a good thing. Out in the open works fine. And then the other thing that I did on my high tunnel So got this long high tone kickboards, kickboard. And so there's these ribs and they're 4 feet on center. So what I was doing, what I do is I take seatbelt material. I think this stuff up here.
Old seatbelt material?
Yeah, you can buy seatbelt material on eBay. And I was taking seatbelt material. And because the wind still can get in here and it pulls it up and pulls it down and it makes a lot of noise. And it's stressful on the plastic. So I take the seatbelt material and I wrap it down and then I anchor it on my kickboard. And so I do that at every rib. And so, but I crank it down tight. And so it kind of goes like this. And that's how I keep it from making a lot of noise and going popping back and forth. And that also helps the longevity of that plastic and that high tone. There's a lot of little tricks to doing this, and you learn it as you go along. I've definitely learned a lot.
How long have you been doing it?
Almost 20 years. Yep, almost 20 years, probably like 18.
So they still started inside, or you just started directly in the tunnel?
Depends. I will start so the question is, do you direct sow or start your seeds? I will start all my tomatoes, my peppers, those I'll start, but everything else is direct sown. I'll start the artichokes. Peanuts I'll direct sow. Your sweet potatoes come as slips. And so I'll just direct sow those, but I'll put black plastic down, plant my sweet potato slip, but I'll also companion plant with that. So I'll put something on top like my gourds. Yeah. You have to know what to do with gourds, and I ended up giving lots and lots of gourds away. I was drying them in the office. I was giving them away. I had like 150 little tiny pear-shaped gourds. What do you do with them?
Does broccoli have to be sown or started inside?
I start my broccoli. I was starting that direct in the soil. Same thing with the cabbage and the cauliflower. Unless it was really expensive seed, because I was growing the cheddar or the purple one. So if you haven't, broccoli comes in colors, right?
Right.
Comes yellow, purple, green, white. They all taste the same. But the cheddar seeds and the purple seeds are really expensive. So those I was starting in the house and then taking them out there. Yeah. But otherwise, everything is direct sown. Carrots, beets, lettuce. What else? Artichokes I was starting in the house. Watermelon, I found that, watermelon, cantaloupe, cucumbers, they all do fine, started directly into the soil. Green beans, direct into the soil. Corn, direct into the soil. Best corn crop ever grown in here. And it was perfect. Like the ears were perfect. Yeah.
Do you feel like you start your seeds for like the tomatoes and peppers and that kind of stuff, but then without the plants to this, you have to still add the month for the transplant period?
Yeah, so the question is, starting your tomatoes, peppers in the house, and you bring them back out and you plant them in the high tunnel, they still are going to have that transition period. And for tomatoes, it's going to be about 10 days. For peppers, that's like 2 weeks. Yeah, peppers just hate being transplanted. drip irrigation, black plastic, lots of ventilation, make your own fertilizer. Your master gardeners, make your own fertilizer.
Yes. I've got my little bottle.
Yep.
Thank you.
So for the seed starting class, I do have seeds for everybody. And so I have a variety of flower seeds. I have a few tomato seeds and some pepper seeds, but I'll have seeds. I've got trays and containers. I have all sorts of stuff for you guys to start seeds in.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hope to get a few more tomato seeds for you.
What's the turnaround time if you order through Johnny's catalog? I'm assuming that they've already got their seeds ready to go.
It's fast.
Is it fast?
It's fast. If you order on Monday, my bet is by Saturday, you'll have your seeds. Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts, questions? So how does plastic stand up to hail? I've had a few hailstorms come through with my plastic and its sole rig. Stands up better to it than the Sunmaster 6 mil, but you're talking a 6 mil versus a 12 mil plastic. And so the thicker the plastic, the better it'll stand up to it, but it depends upon the size of that hail and how's it formed too. Yeah.
Well, I did.
I don't think.
I
we've
had
ever
food
got
plastic
any
on
hail
mine,
that
I had a
been
big
bigger.
Yeah.
100 cap. And it punched through in a couple spots, but they make greenhouse repair tape. That you can just put right over the hole. Assuming you can get to the top of it. where the
Oh, I
hole is,
have. I have.
But they make repair tape, and it comes in different widths. I think I have like 4-inch tape.
Like the inside.
Well, you do it. So the question is, how do you get that plastic up on there?
Now, how do you get up on top to? Take it.
Oh, I do it inside.
Oh,
I have a big ladder. And I'm not particularly afraid of heights. And I just get up on a big ladder. Hopefully looks more like this in there than a jungle. And I wait till the end of the season and I get up there, but you've got to do something. You've got to be able to get up there and protect it. Because the wind will get a hold of it, make a little hole, a big hole. And then you've got
Ventilation.
and so these, at some point or another, your plastic will fail. And I have pictures of my failed plastic and it's not pretty. My high tunnel is right along the road, along County Road, so I can't hide what's happened. And one night this came loose, it failed because I had some hailstones up there. And even though I thought I'd got them all, I didn't, and eventually it tore. And it tore at the top this way. And it did that at 3 in the morning and it sounded like shotguns going off. There was nothing quiet about it. And so, I had to wait till the wind died down. But in the meantime, I swear I've never seen so much traffic on 146 as when my plastic failed and it was doing this, waving at everybody. Yeah. So they're never dull, that's for sure. And when they fail, it's impressive. Yeah, I don't include that in the lecture because I don't want to discourage you guys. I've already, scared you to death about what not to do in here. I really don't want to scare you with failed high tunnel pictures. But when your high tunnel looks like that, that's incredibly rewarding, incredibly rewarding. Yeah, that's more food than, yeah. That's gonna take care of a lot of people.
And you're not using any electric fans?
Yeah, No, I just roll up the sides, roll down the sides. All I do. Yep. Makes it easy.
I put a question in the chat.
Yeah, sometimes it. Huge range, 2 inches in an hour, and also, how's that affected?
So there's been a few times where it's rained 2 inches at night, you know, in July, we can get those monsoon floors. And it could be pretty impressive, and I've never had any problems with it because of the dome shape, the water just runs off. You know, sometimes it'll run in through the sides, but for the most part, I've never had a lot of problems. Even with the snow, I've had a foot of snow on top and it just falls off on the sides. And so on the roll-up sides, you want those roll-ups. When you do those, you want it to roll like this. So there's your high tunnel, this is your kickboard. And I know there's a gap here. And that's not a big concern. But the snow just slides right off and it'll pile up here. If you're rolling your sides up like this, the snow piles up on top of that.
Say with the rain, the rain will fill up inside.
Yep. So that's the bigger problem.
Me on the chat, wanted to say something.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions on chat.
What is on your drip line?
What's that?
How many gallons per hour do you use that? What, in other words, what size drip line? Quarter?
Half inch a gallon. It's a half a gallon per hour.
So you put that.
Depends on how you want to look at it. I'm on a well, so the more I put down, the less my well is running. And so at a half a gallon an hour, I know precisely how much water is going down. 'Cause I know how long it is.
Like emitters or tape, right? That run different voltages.
Yep.
So you can have that.
Yep. So I want to put down a lot of water quickly and shut the whole system off. Because think about it, you know, if it's running longer over time, I'm using more electricity.
Your well pump is burning.
Yeah, so. And we figured that it was costing, when I had the full 5,000 square foot garden, it was costing about $1 a day to water it. That's not bad. It's not bad. Everything was on drip. Lots of fun. Well, everybody, if there isn't any more questions, I will see you on Wednesday, and of course, it'll snow on Wednesday. Because it's Wednesday. I'm more concerned about the